All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Chasing Larger Sports Stories podcast. I'm your host, Chase Steffes, along with your other host, Derek Larger, over to my left. We've got an interesting show to start off with. It has been a hot minute since we have been able to get on. We have both been busy with our work schedules and just in general with life going on. So it's going to be a very busy the next few weeks. So we'll try to do as many shows as we can and keep you all updated on any latest NFL news, also the playoff brackets, mock drafts, etc. You name it. We will do everything that we can to stay in the loop. To get started off, we have a few injuries that we want to tackle. Key important injuries to a lot of quarterbacks that happened over the weekend. Derek, one notably is to one Sir Jimmy Garoppolo. Okay,
Yes.
we were just informed today that he will not need surgery on his foot, so he is expected to probably make a return if the 49ers make a deep playoff run or maybe even be back for that first playoff game. How huge is that for the San Francisco 49ers? And do you think Brock Purdy can continue what he did this last Sunday against the Dolphins and continue making noise?
Oh, I think it's huge for the 49ers that, Jimmy G could be back within 6 weeks and, be able to do what he wants to do. I mean, like you say, you got 4 weeks left of this season, 5 weeks of the season, really. So, it's one of those situations where 5 weeks and then you get a week off with the playoffs. And then, like you said, if the 49ers can make it deep into the playoffs, they could get their quarterback back in time for, the biggest push of the season. And that is definitely a very important thing. And I do believe that Purdy will end up doing just fine. What the 49ers are doing right now defensively is really helping out from an offensive standpoint.
They
And
are the
then, of
best
course,
unit in the NFL.
yeah, and then of course all the talent offensively you have, and the way that Kyle Shanahan is able to break down offenses and be able to make things easier for a quarterback. It's definitely a very important situation here. Nobody ever expected him to be involved in this situation. I don't think he ever expected that he would be playing in this particular part of the season, but did enough to win the game last week. And, you just have to do just enough to get your team through and into the playoffs.
And what's funny, he was actually drafted as Mr. Irrelevant,
Yes.
drafting a quarterback with that very last pick in this past draft. And everybody thought, why are you choosing a quarterback when you got Jimmy G and Trey Lance on the roster? Well, now that Mr. Irrelevant is becoming relevant for the 49ers, and it is huge. Other QB injuries that we are facing, Derek, we have seen glimpses of the future for the Jacksonville Jaguars and what Trevor Lawrence has to offer for this team. Obviously, he needs to clean up the fumble issues that he has and be able to hold on to the ball better. And he needs a solid, true number one weapon on that team to be able to make this offense more explosive. They're going to get that next year with Calvin Ridley coming back. And then I feel like this Jaguars team, if they can build more talent in their secondary and build a little bit more offensive talent, this unit will be a force to be reckoned with in the next couple years with Doug Peterson. But we had a lower leg injury uh, given to Trevor Lawrence from the Detroit Lions, and he actually, walked off on his own free will, but he was not able to return in the game on Sunday. How concerning is that for the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Well, I mean, for a particular instance of, trying to make a push for the playoffs, it's not a huge deal. We all know what the Jaguars are right now. And as long as, the injury is nothing of a long term thing, then I think all is fine. But, like you said, you want to try to have Trevor out there right now, especially with, the recent hot streak he has been on with some of the good games that he's compiled. You don't want to have a quarterback come off the field during that time frame when, he's starting to build that confidence a little bit. So it really does stink that, he potentially may, suffer some lower leg problems for the rest of the season. But, as far as it's all concerned for the Jaguars, I think everything is fine, at least for the long-term future.
No, absolutely. I think it is very important to make sure that he is healthy before coming back out there. I know that, like you said, you don't want to take him out because He had probably one of the best games of his career against the Ravens, completing almost 70% of his passes, having over 320 yards and 2 TDs. It is huge for him to continue building that. We are seeing what the future holds in Trevor Lawrence, and we do know now that if the team is built a little bit more offensively, or offensive heavy, Trevor Lawrence will thrive in this in the going future. The one injury that we need to tackle right now is the Lamar Jackson injury. Okay. We saw last year when Lamar went down, before Lamar went down, the Ravens were having the number one seed and they were 7-3, I think, before he went down. And then after he went down, they lost their last 6 games to end the season and they ended up finishing with an 8-9 record. How concerning is it to know that Lamar Jackson could be sidelined for 3 weeks in the midst of the Bengals on their heels for the division and the potential of if the Browns can continue winning out? How crucial is it to make sure that Lamar is back before they start going on a losing streak?
Yeah, I mean, right now in particular, that's a terrible time for Lamar to be out. I mean, you look at their record, they're 8-4 right now. And who else is also 8-4 in their division? That is the Cincinnati Bengals. So and the Bengals have been hot, ever since their 0-2 start to the season, they've went 8-2. They're pulling a Aaron Rodgers with Green Bay kind of almost run the table sort of thing, right? Like they flipped that switch back on and they've been good. I mean, Cincinnati Bengals good from last year. Haven't quite seen that yet, but they are still a team that did just beat the Kansas City Chiefs, who you and I think both agree is, the best team in the NFL right now. So, the Bengals are hot right now. And, even if the Bengals end up winning the division, there's still a really good chance for the Ravens to still end up getting into the playoffs. They're still in control of their own destiny at this point, regardless of division or not. But it definitely makes it a lot more difficult because, like you said, if Cleveland were to get hot, but then you also have to worry about teams like when you talk about the Dolphins, right, who are fighting with the Jets for their division, when they're fighting with the Buffalo Bills, right? So you got 3 teams in the AFC East that are all coming into the playoff differential. And, if you start seeing this influx of teams from the AFC East start coming in, it can really start screwing up a lot of seeding for a lot of other teams who are right on the cusp. So, if the Ravens are going to be missing their quarterback for the next 3 weeks, and, that's going to be very difficult. They're going to have to win at least one of those games in order to make sure that they at least are guaranteed a shot. Now, if they win 2 of the next 3 without Lamar Jackson, then I would say that their path to the NFL playoff is practically set at that point. But, it is a numbers game for the Ravens. And it is certainly not a situation where you want your franchise guy being out in a situation where you're trying to maintain your hold on the division right now.
No, absolutely. I mean, they got the Steelers this week. They've already ruled Lamar out and not being able to play against the Steelers. The Steelers have been playing really well the past couple weeks. Offense is looking better. Defense is looking great with TJ Watt back now. So don't be surprised if the Steelers end up coming out with the win this week against the Baltimore Ravens. And then it doesn't get any easier because the Browns defense has been playing a lot better. We already saw what happened the first time around. We lost by a field goal to Justin Tucker. They got the Browns next week as well. And if he's not ready to go and he loses 2 divisional games back to back, that could really hurt the Ravens. That'll put them at 8-6. Going in to play the Falcons for that 3rd week spot. So if he's out for 2 weeks and comes back that 3rd week, he could probably beat the Falcons, no doubt. But it's going to be very, very interesting to see, because if somehow we win this week and we beat the Ravens next week, that puts us 1 game behind the division leaders of the Cincinnati Bengals and potential Baltimore Ravens. So it's going to be very interesting to see. Lamar needs to be back in order for that team to have the success that they need, because we've seen what happens when he's out of the lineup and how bad they end up losing. So it's to remain to be seen. We hope Lamar gets a speedy recovery and hope that he doesn't get any more damage in that knee of his. That's obviously better to make sure that he comes back fully healthy and ready to go for the playoffs, so that way he doesn't injure his leg even more for the near future. So we know that he's trying to get that contract, and he wants to make sure that he is good. Moving on to the AFC South division, Derek, we got the first GM news for this season. The Titans has fired their GM after 7 seasons with the team. After making this team go to the AFC Championship game multiple times in the playoffs, getting the number 1 seed, the Titans fired their GM. Was this a shock to you?
I think it was really a shock for everyone. And I don't think that necessarily the shock of him actually being fired was the shock of it all. I think more people were just shocked at the timing, because everyone was like, well, wait, why did you fire him mid-season? I mean, you guys are in the lead for your division once again, right? Like you have a winning record. You know, your team is gonna, more than likely win the AFC South again for like the 3rd time in the last 4 years, right? So, your team is in set position in order to, make another playoff run. But I think that the timing is very key here, and there might have been some things that might have happened in the building that we don't know about. Now, remember, Chase, we remember this day when I was over at your place for the draft day, and then the Titans traded away AJ Brown to the Eagles for the 18th pick.
And he didn't want to leave. He just wanted a contract.
Everyone talked about that. Everyone was saying, what an idiot to allow AJ Brown, one of the best receivers in the NFL, to go to another team for not wanting to pay him $2 more million per year, right? Well, I mean, it's weird because everyone keeps saying that. That's the reason why. Now, I don't think it really is the whole reason why, because if that was the reason why, they would have just fired him immediately after the draft was over. But I will say this: the Titans did just play the Eagles. AJ Brown proceeded to they proceeded to lose to the Eagles. AJ Brown had a fantastic game against them. So that obviously doesn't look good, right, Chase, from an optics standpoint. And then I think it has some other things to do with it, right? I think that Titans ownership thinks that from a roster standpoint, feels that this roster has gotten weaker. While this team has still been good, this roster over the last few years has missed on a lot of great players. Like, you remember Isaiah Wilson, right? The tackle from Georgia that they picked in 2019, never played a down for them, right? Because of off the field issues, mental issues, all of this stuff. You traded away your draft pick this last year for Treylon Burks, who's, having an okay season, but nothing that's blowing you out of the water, right? And then, you draft Malik Willis as your backup quarterback, right? But Malik Willis can't throw the football. So it's kind of one of those situations where you're thinking, the team itself is good. The team itself is playing really good right now, but at the moment, I think roster-wise, it's gotten worse, and I think that is where it came down to. And then, of course, playing the Eagles, letting A.J. Brown go, and A.J. Brown just, rip into you, I think was probably just the final straw for the owner, and was just like, okay, yeah, like you definitely messed up there, bro. You pulled a Bill O'Brien here, trading DeAndre Hopkins to another team for a second rounder. It really felt the same way for them, and now he's making you pay, right? So I don't know. There's a lot of other things, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it, Chase, because the timing is really weird on this.
I think it is very, very weird. Just because like he has had success. He's had his flop with some picks, but then again, so have a lot of other GMs. They've had their flops with picks too. I don't know. It's very weird, but like I do think that the whole AJ Brown thing was the final nail in the coffin, just because uh he wanted all he wanted was paid. He just wanted a paycheck and he wanted the bag, and Tennessee was not willing to give that to him, and he said he didn't mind staying in Tennessee as long as he got paid, but they weren't willing to do that. They said that he wanted too much money, said that he wasn't worth it, and then they traded him to the Eagles, and now look at what happens. Like, he's been balling out ever since. So, I think that firing him midseason was a weird move, but I think it was needed uh for what was coming.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, man. It's really weird. I'd love to hear more information that people can give on why that happened, but nevertheless, yeah, I know Colts fans were loving it because they were just like, yeah, John Robinson got fired before Chris Ballard did. What a world we live in. I just love people's aspirations to want to get rid of Chris Ballard right now. A ton of people want him gone, and it's absolutely ridiculous.
All right, I want to address Trey real quick.
Trey, listen, Trey, you beat two of those teams early in the year when they weren't playing at their best. The Jets from earlier in the year are not as good at the moment as they are now. And then on top of it, you beat Miami when you didn't have Tua playing. Congratulations. Right now, the Dolphins would beat you guys.
And the Browns smacked them.
Yeah. So stop acting like you're the best team in the NFL. You're not. You're one of them, but stop acting like you're clearly the best. You're not.
There's teams that are more talented, but are doing more with less. Like, you just beat the Kansas City Chiefs, which, granted, I will admit, you have their number. I will give that to you. But the Chiefs were also missing Kadarius Toney and a couple other people. But you still beat them by 7. So I'll give you the props. But, you can't beat teams like the likes of the Browns. Joe Burrow's 0-4 versus them and gets demolished every time that they play them. Not to mention that, you barely beat the Tennessee Titans. You beat them by 4. And, you had a lot of close losses or close wins. Like, you get 1 or 2 plays the opposite way and it goes the other team's favor. So I'm not saying that the Bengals,
Trey, the Jets beat the Bills literally like 3 or 4 weeks after that happened. So you're trying to talk about things that happened at the beginning part of the season and act like it matters the same way as it does now. No.
But not to mention that, like, every time Joe Burrow faces a good defense or like a defense that is pressuring him, like, not just him, the whole team folds because, I'll go back to that Halloween game versus the Browns because that wasn't that far back. Garrett and Clowney and the whole defense was just pressuring Burrow the whole game long, and he could not get in a rhythm, could not get in a groove. Not to mention you had Ward and Martin Emerson shutting down the wide receivers and everything. And don't get me started. Oh, you guys didn't have Jamar Chase. Well, we shut him down last year too, and we'll do it again this week as well because we've got Denzel Ward back and everything. Like, the Bengals are a good team. Don't get me wrong; they are just not the best team in the NFL. You've got teams like the Vikings, the Eagles, the Bills.
The Bills would own the Bengals right now.
Hung 37 on the Steelers with Jamar Chase without Jamar Chase a few weeks ago. That's the Steelers.
Congratulations. It's the Steelers, bro. It's the Steelers. The Steelers have been the second worst pass defense in the NFL this year. Like as if that matters. Congratulations.
Trey, I'll give you the credit
and trash ass Steelers by 37. You beat the trash ass Steelers and beat them by putting up 37. Congratulations.
I'll give you that and say that the Bengals are one of the best teams. They're a top 5 team, no doubt, but the best.
I'd say they're number 5. Yeah, they're number 5 at this moment. Yeah.
It's a good
defense at times. At times.
You're also
And
facing
remind me, was that with or without TJ Watt on the field? Because
that
last I
was
remember, because
that was with.
that was with TJ Watt.
I'm pretty sure it was with TJ if I can remember
I don't
correctly.
remember. I don't remember the few weeks ago, but regardless, let's ignore Trey. He's trying to rile people up. He just knows that the Bengals are good, but he's an irrational fan. He's not the best team. Let's just move forward, Chase, shall we?
Okay. In other news that we had the Carolina Panthers release Baker Mayfield this past weekend. So we had a lot of controversy with Adam Schefter coming out saying that Baker asked for his release from the Carolina Panthers. But according to DJ Moore, he went on to somebody's podcast this past week and told everybody that he actually wanted to stay in Carolina and wanted to be there and everything. So who knows what actually happened? But we just had news yesterday that the Los Angeles Rams had picked up Baker for the rest of the season. Now Matthew Stafford got 2 concussions right in a row after coming off of the concussion protocol. He got another one. So I think they put him on IR for the rest of the season. They knew that their season was done. They're just going to let him heal up and make sure that he's okay for the rest of the season. Derek, what do you think of this move? Because for me, I think that if Sean McVay can't resurrect Baker and get him playing at a high level, then his career is done. Like, absolutely done with everything.
Yeah, I think that the problem surrounding Baker has been, when he moved from Cleveland to Carolina, people were saying, was it Cleveland's fault that Baker was getting bad? Is it just the fact that Baker, just isn't quite that good, like things like that. But then he got to Carolina and, just could never do anything right when it came to Carolina. And, the fact that Matt Rule was the head coach, then, it was a bad situation nonetheless. But I think we've all agreed that Baker Mayfield just hasn't been a good quarterback over the span of the last 2 years. And now we're just getting into a situation where, he's going to the Rams. Regardless of what happened in Carolina, whether he was actually released because he asked for it or that the coaches made him leave, nonetheless, he's been a professional about it throughout the whole process. And, him going to the Rams, I mean, I think that was a fantastic thing for him. I think that, going to the Rams, he's got some weapons. He's going to be with Sean McVay, who, is an offensive genius. And I think that, there's a lot of good things that Baker Mayfield can do. Only problem is, like you said, the Rams are in this mess right now. Their offensive line is terrible. They've had a lot of injuries, and defensively, they just haven't been the same because the offense has been so atrocious. So, it's been a mess of a season for the Rams. How much does that actually help them? I don't really know. But, I mean, Baker being released and then going to the Rams, I mean, you certainly hope for the best for him.
Yeah, it's crazy because he's only 2 years removed from the Browns having their best season that they've ever had in the past, decade, from winning the playoff game for the first time in a while and on the verge of being a top 10 quarterback in the league at that point in time. And now he's regarded as probably one of the worst, if not the worst quarterback in the NFL with the way that it goes. And I do think that, losing Kevin Stefanski really hindered Baker because I saw something the other day and I looked up the stats to back it up. Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield, and Jacoby Brissett all had the best years of their careers when Kevin Stefanski was calling their plays and, their coach. So it's going to be interesting to see. Sean McVay is an offensive-minded head coach and a great head coach, and we'll see what he can do. Like I said, if he cannot bring Baker back to that caliber of player that we saw in Cleveland for the first couple of years, or if not better, then I don't think he's going to fit anywhere else in the league, and he'll probably be a backup the rest of his career.
Right.
So It'll be interesting to see where they go from there and how well he plays. It remains to be seen if he'll play this Thursday, but he'll probably definitely play next week over Bryce Perkins. So, because Baker's more talented than Bryce Perkins, but we'll have to wait and see how that goes. On to other news. The AFC West was supposed to be regarded as one of the best divisions in football with all of the talent that they acquired, via Russell Wilson, Raiders getting Devontae Adams and Chandler Jones, Chargers getting JC Jackson and Khalil Mack. The sky was the limit for this team. Everybody thought that the Chargers would take the next step. The Broncos would be, 11-6, 12-5, whatever it may be. And that's just not the case. The Chiefs are looking like they're going to be the division winners for the 7th year in a row, looking like they're going to come out on top. But Derek, the Raiders have been on a hot streak recently. They have won 3 in a row and could look to win their 4th straight game this Thursday night. And it's all been because of riding the coattails of Josh Jacobs. Do you think that the Raiders are getting hot at the right time, and do you think that they have a chance to make a playoff push?
Making a playoff push, I really don't believe so. I think that's going to be a little far-fetched for them at the moment. But when we're looking at like everything in totality, like you said, like over the last 3 weeks, they've been averaging 28 points per game. Actually, it's been more like 29 to 30 because of, like you said, Josh Jacobs going on this like amazing stretch that he is. And then, of course, Devontae Adams has been just on fire recently. Him and Derek Carr have finally figured it out. Playoff wise, again, you got to win out to even have a chance in this moment. And, that's a lot to ask for this team for what it's been all year. But I agree with you. They definitely have gotten hot, and, it gives them a shot right now. But, it should have been a few weeks earlier than this. They shouldn't have started their year, 2-7 to start the year, and then they would have had a much better shot at it. But, this is a team that, definitely can win some more games going forward. I mean, if you just look at their upcoming schedule and who they have, I mean, they're going to face the Rams this week, which is they're going to face the Rams this week, which is very favorable. You can beat New England because New England is not a very strong team, but I do think New England's a better coached team. And then you're going to have to face, Pittsburgh, which you can definitely win. But then you're going to face teams like, the San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs to end your season, right? So, the sheer idea of them being able to win out the rest of the way just does not speak to me. But no doubt that this is definitely a different kind of team than what they were just a month ago.
Well, to me, I think that they could beat the Kansas City Chiefs to end their season just because I think that the Chiefs are going to be resting their starters for the playoffs and everything. So it's going to be very interesting because while the Chiefs are resting their starters, the Raiders are going to be fighting for that playoff push. So they're going to need every win that they can get, like you said. But I do think that Josh McDaniels saved his job. What do you think, Derek?
Yeah, I mean, if they continue to keep winning games like this, then I definitely believe that they will. That he definitely can keep his job. Just they have to keep winning though. They have to win. If they can win, 3 or 4 of their last 5, then it gives people willingness to accept that maybe things are different now. But because recency bias plays a lot of role in how coaches are hired and fired. But it's a long shot though. But he definitely could save his job if he keeps winning games like this.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. All right. One of the most controversial topics that we're going to be talking about, we get the last 2 things, and then I'm going to have to hit it or get going to work. So we saw for the first time in over 700 days the return of Deshaun Watson to the team that drafted him, the area where he was. He had a lot of family show up there, and it was interesting to say the least. I mean, he didn't play extremely horrible, but he didn't play great at all. I would say he was kind of middle of the pack. He had 12 completions with 22 attempts. I think he had like 55 or 60 rushing yards, and he had a pick.
Mm.
What do you expect from a guy coming off of, almost a 2-year hiatus, coming in to see his first game action in so long? He had a lot of throws that were like in the dirt. Like he had 4 of them that were in the dirt and at the receiver's feet. And if he gets those balls up, that's more completions for him, more yards for him, and it makes him look better. And he said in the post game that that touchdown that he tried throwing, which ended up being picked, was a rush play. So to me, Derek, I think that people are just overreacting with this. I mean, we all knew going into this that it would be a work in progress. We knew that it would take a little while for Deshaun to, get back to his former self. And if the trend continues, obviously Baker, Kirk Cousins, and Jacoby all had the career, like they're the best years of their career with Stefanski as the play caller. Sky's the limit for Deshaun Watson. I cannot fathom why people are just immediately throwing him to the side, saying he's washed and trash and a waste of $230 million. I mean, dude hasn't played in a while. Give him some time.
Well, he definitely looked like a guy that hasn't had a meaningful snap of football in over 2 years, right? Like that definitely was what he looked like. And of course, during that whole frame, for most of this season, he wasn't allowed to practice with the team, right?
Mhm.
Like only for the last couple weeks. Even then, I mean, practice only gets you so much. Practice, you can practice all the hell you want, but until you actually get in there and play real meaningful snaps with your guys, you're not going to deal with things really well. And then on top of all of it, with the fact that he's been gone for 2 years and hasn't been ready and things of that nature, you go back to the stadium that brought you in, right? Like that was your home for so many years. So the emotion of that, the fact that you can't tell me his head was on straight. You couldn't. There's no way, because there was a mixture of boos. There was a mixture of applause. The Texans fans were loud and proud to make sure Deshaun Watson lost, right? Like that has to get through your head a little bit. So, of course, first game, that is a very unorthodox game for Deshaun Watson and what had to go for it. But thank God the rest of your team decided to show up, right? Like your special teams and your defense decided to show up. I mean, the Browns scored their 3 touchdowns by defense and special teams only. There was no offensive touchdown scored in that game for Cleveland. Now, of course, when you go and face the Bengals this week, that can't be the case, right? Like they're going to have to, get some offense generated in some capacity. You're going to have to run the football like you guys did before. And, Deshaun's going to have to, I mean, at least the good thing is from a game planning perspective, the way you guys played the Bengals last time, thankfully the defense was on fire. I would imagine your defense probably going to know how to defend Joe Burrow there. And thankfully the last time you guys played him offensively, Jacoby didn't do a whole lot. Jacoby just made a few throws here and there to keep the drive going when, Nick Chubb had the team on his back. So that's got to be the game plan going into this is, Deshaun, we don't need you to throw 30 passes in this game. We just need you to, hit the ones that we ask you to throw, right? Like those throws need to count. So, Deshaun Watson, that first game obviously looked like a quarterback that hasn't played for multiple years and was in a hostile situation. But, it's going to take some time, like you said, and we will not see the full extent of Deshaun Watson this season. It's going to take more than, just 6 games to finally see what Deshaun Watson's actually capable of. It's going to take these 6 games plus an entire offseason for us to finally see what Deshaun Watson is capable of.
Yeah, and like he said during his post-game press conference, it's week 1 for him, but week 13 for a lot of other guys. So while everybody's up to speed, he's just now getting his feet wet and everything. And like I think with another week of learning the plays, another week with hearing Stefanski in the headset, another week of getting chemistry and getting things back to normal with his teammates and everything. I think he's going to come out and play a lot better this next week. I'm predicting 250 yards and 2 touchdowns on his resume for this next week, but we'll have to wait and see what he can do. But yeah, it's going to be a work in progress. Like you said, we'll probably see glimpses of the old Deshaun in the next 6 games, but in terms of like him surpassing that and going Super Saiyan, we're gonna have to wait until next season for that to happen. So we'll have to wait and see how it goes and move on from there.
Yep.
All right. So Derek, now is the time. You will not be around for the next couple days, and I'm gonna be busy. So let's get into it. Our predictions for the week, so that way we can get going.
Absolutely. Just want to say for the record, Chase is 92-72-1. I am 98-66-1. Still have a 6-game lead over Chase. We both went 13-3 last week. So, that was our best week by a long shot in it was week 12's games that we talked about. So, that was a fantastic week for us. But now we're going into week 14. So, Chase, let's get with the first one. The Raiders versus the Rams.
I don't think that Baker is going to learn enough playbook in the next 2 days to be able to be the starting quarterback. And I think that with the way Josh Jacobs is playing, I think the Raiders are riding a hot streak. Although he is questionable with the quad and the calf injury, so we'll have to wait and see. But I'm going to go with the Raiders in this one for the Thursday night football game.
Yeah, I'm going to go Raiders as well. Again, I will never trust a team that has, a brand new quarterback that's never been in the system before trying to throw passes to these guys. So I'll go with the Raiders because they're the hot hand. Jets versus the Bills.
I'm going to go with the Jets.
Okay. I'm going with the Bills this time. The Bills got beat by the Jets the last time around. They were in New York. This time they're in Buffalo. The Bills are looking to, get their revenge again, remind the Jets of who's the daddy in the division. So I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills here. Browns versus the Bengals.
Browns.
Okay. I'll go with the Bengals this time. Bengals are the hot hand. Texans
We've got the Bengals numbers.
Yeah, I know. This next one, I don't feel like I need to ask you, but I'll ask you anyway. Texans versus Cowboys.
I'm going to go with the Texans. No, Cowboys.
Says that every time that I say something about the Texans, ladies and gentlemen. He always goes with potential upset. Hey, listen, the Texans through the first half made it seem like they were going to beat you guys. So
I wasn't worried. I was not worried whatsoever.
Vikings versus the Lions.
I'm going with the Lions.
Going with the Lions, huh?
Going with the Lions.
I'll go with the Vikings here. I know the Lions have been getting better, but the Vikings, I think, are too good. Now, I will say this. I am rooting for the Lions to win because, I want them to get out of the draft order, out of the way of the Colts. Okay, so that's what I'm rooting for.
It's not the Lions you got to worry about. It's the Rams you got to worry about.
Well, I understand that, but also the Lions are 5-7. So wherever their next first round draft pick is,
they're picking 14th right now.
I know, but if they keep losing, then they're only a game and a half, behind or ahead of Indianapolis right now. So it's not very far. Eagles versus the Giants.
I'm gonna go with the Eagles.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go Eagles as well. The Giants, again, are just very limited. Ravens without Lamar versus the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Give me the Steelers.
All right. I will go with the Steelers as well. I think somehow, some way I'll say this. If the Ravens play the way they did last week against the Broncos, then they won't win this game. So I hope the Steelers keep winning so that way they make the record better. Jaguars versus the Titans.
Give me the Jags.
I'm going with Jags here too. Not because I think they can pull the upset, but also because I need the Jaguars to win so that way we move ahead of them in the draft order.
You want to move ahead of everybody.
I'm trying to move ahead of everyone, man. Don't chase my dreams away, Chase. The Chiefs versus the Broncos. Do I even need to ask?
No.
Okay. Panthers versus the Seahawks.
Give me the Seahawks.
All right. Yeah, I'll do the same. As much as I wish they wouldn't win, because I want Carolina to move ahead because Carolina is also ahead of us and they're gonna probably draft a quarterback. So get them out of here. Buccaneers versus the 49ers.
Give me the 49ers. I'm riding the Brock Purdy train, and the Niners have the best defense in the league. Give me the Niners.
Yeah, I'll do the same for exact same reasons you just mentioned. Dolphins versus the Chargers.
Oh, is Keenan Allen and Mike Williams both playing?
As it currently pertains, yes, I believe so. I know Keenan Allen is.
Give me the Chargers.
I take the Chargers.
I'm going to take the Chargers.
Okay. I am going with the Dolphins. So, and then last one, Patriots versus the Cardinals.
Give me the Pats.
All right. I'm going with the Cardinals. I'm going massive upset with the Cardinals, and I need the Cardinals to win in order to move ahead of them in the draft order. So, that's another reason why. All right. So that's going to do it for this show, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. This is Derek Larger, Chase Steffes. It's the Chasing Larger Sports Stories podcast. Enjoy the rest of your day.